Have you ever broken something you loved and wished you could go back and fix it? Maybe it wasn't just a thing. Maybe it was a moment, a relationship, or someone's heart. We often try to hide our mistakes, to glue the pieces back together so no one sees the cracks. But what if those cracks are not something to hide? What if they are the very lines that make us stronger? This is the story of Amir, a young boy, a simple cup, and a mistake that changed everything. It's a story about anger, forgiveness, and the beauty of mending what's been broken, not with fear, but with love. Because sometimes the things that break us the most are the ones that teach us how to heal. Have you ever broken something so precious that no matter how much you tried to fix it, the cracks still showed? Maybe it wasn't an object, but a relationship, a bond, a friendship, or a moment of trust that once felt unbreakable. What do we do when the cup of our heart is shattered, not by accident, but by someone we love? In a small, quiet town surrounded by green hills and narrow cobblestone streets lived a young boy named Amir. He was 13, old enough to know right from wrong, but still young enough to believe that love could fix anything. He lived with his mother, Salma, a gentlewoman who worked long hours at a nearby bakery. Life was simple, sometimes hard, but filled with small joys: the smell of freshly baked bread, the laughter of neighbors, the songs that drifted from the mosque at dawn. Amir's most treasured possession was a small porcelain cup. It wasn't fancy. It had no gold rim, no decoration, no brand name. But to Amir, it was priceless. His late father had given it to him on his 7th birthday, saying, "This cup is simple, but it's strong. Take care of it, and it will remind you to stay humble." After his father's passing, Amir kept it like a sacred thing. Every morning he drank milk from that cup, whispering a little prayer for his father's soul. One evening, after a long day at school, Amir came home to find his mother arguing with their landlord. The rent was overdue, and the man's voice filled the small home like thunder. Amir felt fear rise inside him. His mother was always strong, but that day her eyes were tired, her hands trembling. When the landlord left, she sank into a chair and covered her face. Amir wanted to say something comforting, but words felt too small for her pain. Later that night, as Salma cleaned the kitchen, Amir noticed something was missing from the shelf. His heart stopped. The cup, his cup, wasn't there. He searched everywhere but couldn't find it. "Mama, where's my cup?" he asked, his voice trembling. Salma turned slowly, guilt swimming in her eyes. "Amir, I dropped it while washing. It broke." The words hit him like cold rain. For a moment, he just stood there, frozen. "You broke it?" he whispered. She nodded. "I'm sorry, my son. I tried to glue it back, but—" Amir didn't wait to hear the rest. He ran to the trash bin, his hands shaking as he pulled out the broken pieces. There it was, shattered into several jagged fragments. The handle split, the rim cracked. The cup that once held his memories was now just pieces of porcelain and pain. Anger boiled inside him and tears burned his eyes. "You should have been careful," he shouted. His mother flinched but said nothing. "You don't understand, Mama. That was from Father." He turned away, his small fists clenched, his heart filled with something dark. He didn't realize how much those words would hurt her. That night, Amir didn't eat dinner. He sat by the window, watching the moon rise, holding one small piece of the broken cup. The light touched the sharp edge, and he whispered, "You said it was strong, Father. You were wrong." His mother's soft sobs from the other room filled the silence, but he refused to go to her. For the first time in his young life, anger felt stronger than love. Days passed. The house felt colder. Salma spoke gently, trying to bridge the distance, but Amir's replies were short, sometimes silent. She left small notes by his bed. "Have a good day, my son. I packed your lunch. I love you." But he didn't answer any of them. The wound was small, but pride made it deeper. Then came the morning of the school exhibition. Amir had drawn a picture of his family, a happy memory from when his father was alive. The teacher loved it and pinned it on the board with a blue ribbon. But when Amir saw it, he noticed something missing. He hadn't drawn his mother. only himself and his father. He stared at the picture for a long time, a mix of guilt and sorrow pressing down on him. A friend, noticing his silence, asked, "Hey, where's your mom in the drawing?" Amir couldn't answer. That night, as he returned home, he found his mother sitting quietly at the table, her hands folded, a tired smile on her face. On the table lay something unexpected, a new porcelain cup. "I bought this for you," she said softly. "It's not the same, I know, but maybe it can hold your memories again." Amir looked at the cup. It was beautiful, with tiny blue flowers painted around the rim, but all he saw was what was lost. "I don't want it," he said coldly, and walked to his room. When he closed the door, Salma's tears fell silently, one by one. She whispered to herself, "He's still my boy. He'll understand one day." That night, the town was hit by a sudden storm. The wind howled through the streets, and rain poured like endless tears. The electricity went out, plunging their small home into darkness. Amir lay in bed, listening to the thunder, his heart restless. Then, over the roar of the wind, he heard something, his mother's faint voice calling his name. "Amir! Amir!" He jumped out of bed. "Mama?" He ran to the kitchen and found her trying to close a window that had burst open. Rain soaked the floor, and she was struggling to keep the curtains from flying out. He rushed to help her, their hands finally working together. For a moment they looked at each other, breathless, wet, but united again in fear and effort. When the storm finally calmed, they sat together, exhausted, surrounded by darkness. The power was still out, but for the first time in days, they were side by side. Amir glanced at his mother. Her hands were trembling, her face pale. "Are you okay, Mama?" he asked quietly. She smiled weakly. "I'm fine, my son, just tired." For a few moments, neither spoke. Then Amir whispered, "I'm sorry for shouting that day." Her eyes filled with tears, and she reached out to touch his cheek. "Oh, my dear, you don't need to be sorry. I broke the cup, but I never wanted to break your heart." The next morning, the sky looked washed and clean, like the storm had taken away all its anger. Amir walked to school slowly, his shoes splashing in small puddles. Inside his backpack lay the new porcelain cup his mother had bought. He didn't plan to use it. He had only brought it because he didn't want to hurt her feelings again. At school, everyone was talking about the charity fair that would be held next week. Each student had to bring something from home to sell, something small but meaningful. The money would help poor families in the town. When the teacher asked what each child would bring, Amir hesitated. He didn't have much to offer. Then she said kindly, "Sometimes the best gift is the one that carries a story." Those words followed him the whole day. That night he sat by the window again, holding the broken pieces of the old cup. The cracks glimmered in the lamplight. For the first time, he saw beauty in them, like lightning frozen in porcelain. He thought about his mother, her tired eyes, her gentle voice. Maybe forgiveness wasn't about forgetting what was broken. Maybe it was about seeing the cracks and still choosing love. The next morning, Amir asked his mother for glue. She looked surprised, but didn't ask questions. Together they sat at the small wooden table, piecing the cup back into shape. The lines were uneven, the surface rough, but they worked quietly, side by side. When the cup finally stood upright again, crooked but whole, they both smiled. Amir whispered, "It's not perfect." She replied softly, "Neither are we." Days passed quickly as everyone prepared for the charity fair. Amir decided to bring the repaired cup. He wrote a short note to place beside it. "This cup was broken, but it was repaired with love. It's not new, but it's stronger than before." At the fair, people brought all kinds of things, handmade bracelets, old toys, paintings. Amir's cup sat on the table under the warm sunlight, its golden cracks glowing faintly. Some students laughed at it. "Who'd buy a broken cup?" one said. But Amir stayed silent, his hands calm. He had already learned that some things only reveal their worth to hearts that have been hurt before. An old woman approached the table. She wore a faded blue scarf and moved slowly but gracefully. She looked at the cup for a long time, then touched one of the cracks. "You fixed this yourself?" she asked. Amir nodded. "With my mother." She smiled. then it's priceless. She placed a few coins on the table, more than anyone else had offered, and took the cup gently as if it were a treasure. Amir's chest filled with quiet pride. When he returned home, he told his mother what had happened. She listened silently, then said, "Sometimes forgiveness starts when we stop judging what's broken." Amir felt something open inside him, a space that had been locked by anger. He hugged her, really hugged her for the first time since the accident. "I forgive you, Mama," he whispered, "and thank you for teaching me how." That night, Amir couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the old woman and her eyes, full of stories. What made her see value in a broken thing? The next day, curiosity led him to the bakery, where he sometimes helped after school. He asked around about the woman. The baker said, "Ah, that's Amina. She lost her husband years ago and never remarried. People say she collects broken things and repairs them. Old furniture, clocks, dishes. She says everything deserves another chance." Those words stayed with Amir. He decided to visit her after school. When he reached her small cottage at the edge of town, he found her in the garden, surrounded by half-fixed chairs and flower pots. She welcomed him with tea in a mismatched cup. "You came to see how your cup is doing?" she asked with a wink. He smiled shyly. "Yes, and maybe to learn how you fix things." Amina laughed gently. "There's no big secret. You just need patience, steady hands, and a kind heart. But remember, child, the hardest thing to repair isn't porcelain. It's pride. Pride keeps the cracks open." Amir listened carefully. "Did you ever forgive someone who hurt you?" She gazed into the distance before answering. "Many times. And every time I thought I was freeing them. But in truth, I was freeing myself." Amir felt those words settle deep in him like seeds waiting for rain. He helped her glue another cup that afternoon. The work was slow but peaceful. Each time they placed a fragment, he imagined healing a piece of his own heart. When he returned home that evening, the kitchen smelled of bread again. His mother had baked his favorite, soft rolls sprinkled with sesame. She smiled when he entered. "For my little repairman," she said. He laughed, and something in the sound felt brand new. In the weeks that followed, Amir started noticing things he had ignored before. The way his mother hummed while cooking, the way sunlight touched her hair, the quiet strength she carried. Forgiveness, he realized, wasn't a single act. It was a daily choice, like breathing, like waking up to try again. One afternoon, he walked past the old bookstore near the mosque and saw a book displayed by the window. Its title caught his eye, "The Heart That Learns to Mend." He opened it and read a line that seemed written just for him: "To forgive is to remember without hate." He bought the book with his small savings and wrapped it carefully. That evening, he handed it to his mother. "I think you'll like this," he said. She turned the pages slowly and smiled, eyes glistening. "I already do." A few months passed, and life in the little town settled into its calm rhythm again. Amir was happier, his grades were improving, his laughter had returned, and at home he and his mother spoke easily, as if the silence between them had never existed. But life, as it often does, was waiting with a new lesson. At school, Amir sat beside a boy named Rashid. Rashid was clever but restless, always trying to make others laugh. Sometimes his jokes crossed the line. One morning, while the teacher was away, Rashid grabbed Amir's notebook and began flipping through the pages. "Let's see what the good boy writes," he said teasingly. Amir tried to stop him. "Give it back, please." But Rashid held it up and read aloud the small notes Amir had written to himself. Lines like, "I want to make my mother proud," and "Forgiveness is stronger than anger." The class burst into laughter. Amir felt his face burn. "Stop it," he shouted. But Rashid only grinned and said, "Look, our little philosopher is preaching again." The laughter grew louder until the teacher returned. Rashid tossed the notebook back on the desk, pretending nothing had happened. The teacher noticed nothing, but something inside Amir broke again, quietly, invisibly. That evening, Amir walked home with his fists deep in his pockets, his mind full of angry thoughts. "Why did he humiliate me? What did I ever do?" he muttered. He wanted to shout, to fight, to make Rashid feel the same pain. Yet when he entered the house, The smell of fresh bread and the sight of his mother's gentle smile melted some of that rage. She asked, "How was your day?" He hesitated, then only said, "Fine." She touched his shoulder lightly. "When you hide hurt, it grows. Tell me when you're ready." Later that night, as he read his new book, The Heart That Learns to Mend, his eyes landed on a line. The one who forgives grows taller inside. He closed the book and stared at the ceiling. "Taller inside," he whispered. "But why does it feel so hard?" The next morning, he avoided Rashid. But during the lunch break, he overheard a few students whispering that Rashid's father had lost his job and that the family might have to move away. Rashid sat alone at the edge of the playground, his usual smile gone. Amir watched him for a long moment. Something inside him softened. He remembered the broken cup, the cracks, the gold lines of glue. Forgiveness was not just about saying, "It's okay," it was about choosing to see the pain in someone else. Amir walked over and sat beside him quietly. Rashid looked up, surprised. "What do you want?" he asked sharply. Amir shrugged. "Nothing, just thought you might want company." For a moment, Rashid said nothing. Then he sighed. "You probably heard about my dad." Amir nodded. Rashid's voice dropped. "I didn't mean to make fun of you the other day. Everyone laughs, and I wanted to be part of it. But that wasn't right." Amir looked at him. The anger he'd carried dissolved like mist. "It's okay," he said softly. "We all break something sometimes. I broke my mother's heart once with words." Rashid glanced at him, puzzled. Amir smiled faintly. "But I fixed it." For a while they sat in silence, listening to the wind move through the trees. Then Rashid asked, "So, we're good?" Amir nodded. "We're good." Rashid grinned weakly. "You're weird, man. But thanks." They both laughed, and something simple but strong formed between them, a quiet respect. That afternoon, as Amir returned home, he saw Amina, the old woman, sweeping her porch. She waved him over. "You look lighter today," she said. "Did you repair something else?" Amir smiled. "Maybe not with glue this time." She chuckled. "Good. The best repairs leave no visible marks." She invited him for tea again, and as they sat, she told him stories of her own youth, how she had once been betrayed by a friend, and how it took her years to forgive. "But when I finally did," she said, "the world looked brighter. Forgiveness cleans the window of the heart." Amir nodded slowly. "I think I understand that now." Before leaving, he noticed on her shelf a dozen broken cups repaired with shining gold lacquer. "Why gold?" he asked. She answered, "Because when something heals, its scars deserve to shine. It's called kintsugi, the art of making broken things beautiful." Amir thought of his mother, of Rashid, of his own repaired heart. "Maybe people can have kintsugi too," he said quietly. "Indeed," she smiled. "People most of all." That evening, he told his mother about Rashid and what Amina had said. Salma listened with tears in her eyes. "I'm proud of you, Amir. Forgiveness makes you rich in ways money never can." She handed him a small box. Inside was the broken cup, now lined carefully with thin gold paint along its cracks. "Amina helped me with it," she said. "It's our kintsugi cup." Amir held it carefully, feeling its weight. The cracks gleamed softly, not hidden, but celebrated. A year passed, and Amir was no longer the quiet boy he once was. He had grown taller, and his voice carried a calm confidence. People in town often said he had an old soul. Maybe it was because he had learned too early that life's lessons don't always come in gentle ways. His friendship with Rashid grew stronger. They studied together, helped Amina repair things for her neighbors, and even started a small project at school, collecting used books and toys for children who couldn't afford them. The project made Amir proud. It gave him a sense of purpose. But sometimes life likes to test our lessons just when we think we've mastered them. One sunny afternoon, Amir came home from school to find his mother sitting at the table, holding a letter. Her face was pale. "What's wrong, Mama?" he asked. She took a deep breath and said quietly, "It's from your Uncle Kareem." Amir froze. His uncle was his father's younger brother. They hadn't seen him since the funeral years ago. Kareem had been in charge of their family property and had promised to take care of Salma and Amir after his brother's death. But he never did. Instead, he sold part of the land and disappeared, leaving them with almost nothing. Salma had never spoken badly about him, but Amir had always felt bitterness whenever he heard his name. "What does he want?" Amir asked, trying to hide his anger. Salma handed him the letter. It was written in simple words, full of regret. Kareem was sick and had moved back to the town to spend his last days. He wanted to see them, to apologize. Amir's chest tightened. "You're not going to see him, are you?" he asked quickly. His mother looked down. "He's your father's brother," she said softly. "He wronged us, yes, but he's family." Amir stood up, his voice rising. "He took everything from us. We struggled for years because of him. Why should we forgive someone like that?" Salma's eyes filled with quiet sadness. "Because holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die," she whispered. Amir turned away, unable to speak. He didn't want to argue, but inside, old wounds reopened. For days, the letter sat on the kitchen table, its edges curling slightly from the summer heat. Amir avoided looking at it, but he couldn't escape the thoughts it brought. Every time he saw the golden-lined cup on the shelf, he felt torn. Could forgiveness really stretch that far? One evening, he went to see Amina again. She listened silently as he told her everything, about the letter, the land, the betrayal. When he finished, she said, "You've already forgiven small things, Amir. But now life is asking if your heart can forgive when it truly hurts." He frowned. "But what if he doesn't deserve it?" Amina smiled gently. "Forgiveness isn't a reward for the other person. It's a gift you give yourself. You can't heal if you keep touching the wound." Her words sank deep. That night, Amir lay awake staring at the ceiling. He thought of his father, a man who had always taught kindness. What would he have done? Slowly, Amir realized the truth. Forgiveness wasn't about forgetting what happened. It was about freeing himself from the weight of anger. The next morning, he told his mother, "Let's go see Uncle Kareem." They walked together to a small house on the edge of town. The air inside smelled faintly of medicine and dust. On the bed lay a thin man with tired eyes, eyes that once looked like his father's. Kareem struggled to sit up when he saw them. "Salma, Amir," he whispered, his voice breaking. "I didn't think you'd come." Salma sat beside him quietly. Amir stood by the door, arms crossed, unsure if he could step closer. Kareem's hands trembled. "I wronged you. I was greedy, and I was lost. I thought I was securing my future, but I destroyed our family instead. I can't undo what I did, but please, forgive me." The room fell silent except for the ticking of a small clock. Amir looked at his uncle's weak frame, at the deep regret in his face. The anger that had once burned so bright now felt small, like ashes after a fire. He thought of the broken cup, of his mother's words, of Amina's gentle wisdom. He stepped forward slowly. "Uncle," he said softly, "I can't change the past either, but I can choose what to carry into the future." His voice trembled slightly. "I forgive you." Kareem's eyes filled with tears. He reached for Amir's hand, but Amir gently helped him lie back down. Salma's tears fell silently beside them. In that moment, the air in the small room seemed to lift, as if years of hidden pain had finally been set free. On their way home, the evening sky was painted in shades of gold and violet. The wind was cool, carrying the scent of blooming jasmine. Amir felt lighter, though his heart was full. His mother walked beside him quietly, a peaceful smile on her face. "Your father would be proud," she whispered. Amir looked up at the sky, at the first star that had appeared. "I think he already knows," he said. That night, he took the golden cup from the shelf and filled it with milk. He placed it in front of his mother. "Let's drink from it together," he said. She smiled, understanding the meaning behind his gesture. They drank quietly, and for the first time in years, the cup, once broken then mended, held not just milk, but peace. The next morning, Amir went to see Rashid. He told him everything. Rashid listened and said, "Man, you're better than me. I'd never forgive someone like that." Amir smiled. "You would if you knew how good it feels to stop carrying hate." A few weeks later, Uncle Kareem passed away. At the funeral, many were surprised to see Amir and his mother there. Some whispered, "How can they forgive him?" But Amir didn't care. He stood by the grave quietly, his heart calm. He placed a small white flower on the soil and whispered, "May your soul rest in peace, Uncle. I forgive you fully." Years moved quietly, as they always do. The small boy who once cried over a broken cup grew into a young man with kind eyes and a thoughtful smile. Amir was now in college, studying literature and philosophy. He often wrote essays about life, love, and forgiveness, lessons he had learned not from books, but from living. Sometimes, when he walked through the marketplace, he still saw Amina sitting outside her little cottage, surrounded by repaired objects glowing softly in the sunlight. He always stopped to greet her. Her hair had turned completely white, but her eyes remained sharp and full of light. "How's your heart these days, Amir?" she would ask, and he would smile and say, "Still learning to mend, one day at a time." The town had changed too. New buildings had risen, old streets had been repaired, but people still remembered the story of the young boy who forgave the uncle who wronged his family. It became one of those quiet stories passed down, the kind that warms hearts when told on long evenings. People began to bring Amir their problems, asking for advice. He never called himself wise, but he listened, and sometimes listening is the kindest form of wisdom. One day, while visiting his old school, Amir met his former teacher, now older and slower in her steps. She smiled warmly. "I still have that note you wrote for the charity fair," she said, "the one about the broken cup." Amir laughed softly. "I can't believe you kept it." She nodded. "I did, because sometimes I need to remember that broken things can still serve their purpose." That afternoon, the school principal asked Amir to speak to the students about resilience. He hesitated at first. Public speaking wasn't easy for him, but he agreed. The next day, standing in front of dozens of young faces, he felt his heart beat faster. For a moment, he closed his eyes and remembered the boy he once was. Angry, hurt, and afraid. Then he began with a question, just like he always did. "Have you ever broken something you loved?" he asked the student softly. "A cup? A promise? Or maybe someone's heart? What did you do with the pieces?" The hall grew quiet. He continued, his voice steady and warm. "When I was your age, I had a cup that my father gave me. I thought it was strong, but one day it broke. I shouted, I cried, I blamed my mother. I thought I'd lost something forever. But I learned something powerful. The cup was only a symbol. What really mattered was how I chose to respond to what was broken." He walked slowly across the stage. You see, forgiveness isn't weakness. It's the strength to let go of anger when it feels easier to hold it. It's the courage to say, "I will not let pain decide who I am." When we forgive, we don't erase the cracks. We fill them with gold. We make our hearts stronger, not smaller. A hush filled the room. Some students looked down, thinking of their own hurts. Amir continued, "If someone has hurt you, don't let that pain turn you bitter. Fix what you can. Accept what you can't. And when you can, forgive. Because forgiveness is not for them, it's for you. It frees your heart so you can love again." When the applause came, it was soft at first, then grew like a rising wave. Amir smiled humbly and stepped down from the stage. Outside, under the big banyan tree, he sat quietly, letting the breeze touch his face. He looked up at the blue sky and whispered, "Thank you, Father. You taught me strength through a simple cup." That evening, he visited the graveyard where both his father and uncle rested. He placed 2 white flowers, one for love, one for forgiveness. The air was cool, carrying the smell of earth and peace. "You both taught me," he whispered, "that the heart can heal even when life breaks it." As he walked back through the town, he noticed a small boy crying by a fruit stall. The boy had dropped his mother's glass jar, which lay shattered on the ground. "She'll be angry," the boy sobbed. Amir knelt beside him. "Maybe. But tell her the truth and help her clean it up. Then one day she'll forgive you. Mothers always do." He helped the boy gather the pieces carefully. The boy looked up and asked, "Can it be fixed?" Amir smiled. "Everything can be fixed if you do it with love." When he reached home, his mother greeted him with a warm hug. Her hair had streaks of silver now, but her eyes still held the same light that had guided him through every storm. On the kitchen shelf, the golden-lined cup still stood, gleaming softly in the evening sun. He picked it up, turned it slowly in his hands, and said, "You've seen everything, haven't you?" His mother smiled. "Yes, and yet you keep it." Amir nodded. "Because it reminds me that forgiveness makes broken things beautiful." That night, as the stars appeared one by one, Amir sat by the window, the same window he had once stared out of as a boy full of anger. He opened his notebook and began to write. "We break, we fall, we cry, but we also mend, we forgive, we heal, and that is how we grow stronger." He paused, thinking of Amina, his mother, Rashid, his uncle, and everyone who had taught him the quiet power of letting go. Then he wrote one last line. "Forgiveness doesn't change what happened. It changes what can happen next." He closed the notebook, feeling peaceful. The moonlight touched the repaired cup on the table beside him, turning its golden cracks into glowing rivers of light. Somewhere in the stillness, it seemed to whisper back the lesson of his life, that the most beautiful hearts are the ones that have learned to forgive.